Hello and welcome to Joline Knits A Lot. This is my show about knitting and crafting and the things I get up to here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm having a slow start to the day, so I have some coffee with me. If you have coffee too, feel free to drink along, or tea. We don't discriminate here. It is the very end of May, and I don't know about you, but May and June seem to fly by for us. We tend to be busy with end of school things and spring activities, so May and June are just like a whirlwind of activity. But I have a lot of things to show you. I have some finished objects, both here and not here. I took part in a knit along that I'm going to share with you. And I have some things that I've been working on. And I have a secret project that I'll tell you about now, but you'll learn more about later. So let's dive in. Let's start. Start as we mean to go. I'm drinking a hazelnut oat latte. It's my new favorite thing. So I finished, just after the last episode aired, I finished my Scandyland socks. This is a pattern from Summerlee's amazing book, The Sock Project. And I talked about them a bit more in depth the last time, but I'll just show you them finished here. I have blocked them. I think that normally I don't block socks, but for Colourwork socks, it really does make a difference. It evens things out. I used, let's see if I can remember. This is West Yorkshire Spinners in the Milk Bottle colorway. This is some Knit Pick Stroll in Goldenrod Heather. This is also Knit Pick Stroll in, I don't remember what the pink was. The red is also Knit Pick Stroll in Bowie. And this like bright color is Aqua Pop by Polka Dot Creek. What the heck is this pink color? I'll put it on the screen here. So yes, I finished them. They're knit top down. They have an afterthought heel. I used some Chalgu twist. Is that right? Yeah. Yes, Chalgu twist. Little 9-inch needles for the circular Colourwork sections. I used a 3-inch needle on one side and a 2-inch needle on the other side, as recommended by Summerlee. And if you want to know a little bit more about these socks, you can watch the last episode, but suffice it to say they are complete off the needles, and they look really good. I also finished my daughter's monkey socks. She'd requested a pair of socks that look like monkey socks, not the Cookie A monkey sock, but the gray and white and red work sock that I think most of us are familiar with. I finished them. She's worn them. I did take a picture, and this is what they look like. They're just a plain pair of top-down socks. I threw in a red stripe in the cuff. When I do these stripes in the cuffs, I do knit the first round, and that gets rid of the little garter blips that you might see. And then after the first round in a new color, I go back to the ribbing section, and then every time I switch colors, I knit the first round in just plain knitting and then switch back to the ribbing. And that makes a really clean line in the striped ribbing cuff. I did the same for my monkey socks. Those I used West Yorkshire Spinners. Again, for the cuff, I used a bit of red. It's a Polka Dot Creek strawberry. I have a whole skein of it, and that is the skein that keeps on giving. I use that red in a lot of different sock projects. And then the marled sections are a Leo and Roxy marled yarn. You can find it on their website, which I will link to in the show notes below. They also have kits for making your own work socks with a pattern too. That pattern includes a ribbed pattern for the foot. I have knit it before. This time I just knit plain stockinette because I couldn't be bothered to do ribbing. I have 2 more finished objects, and they were part of a knit along that Andrea Mowry hosts every spring. She hosts it Memorial Day weekend, and in Canada we don't actually celebrate Memorial Day weekend. We have a long weekend the weekend before. We call it Victoria Day, and that is a celebration of the Queen's birthday. We celebrated, I guess, Queen Elizabeth II's birthday. Now that we have King Charles III, I'm not sure when we celebrate his birthday, or even if we do. Sorry, I had to be protected by my corgi from 2 tiny dogs that were walking by. Anyway, back to the knit along. It was over the course of the Memorial Day weekend, and yeah, no, we don't get that one. And we were knitting hats over the weekend. So the challenge was to knit 1 hat over the course of the weekend. We were knitting the Traveler hat. The Traveler series is a group of patterns by Andrea Mowry that use a similar stitch pattern. It's sort of alternating stockinette stitch and reverse stockinette stitch. And she has a cowl, a shawl, a sweater, a cardigan, a shell, quite a few different patterns. The Traveler hat is the most recent pattern in that section, in that sort of grouping. And you could knit it in a worsted weight or fingering weight. The pattern includes instructions for both. So I searched the stash to see what I had. And the first hat that I knit was done in a DK weight yarn, actually. This is some that I had lying around. I had a whole skein and a little bit. It's some Parisville Nightshades, which is a beautiful, rich, heathered sort of woolen spun yarn. So it's really lofty and soft. And so I knit a men's size large, but because I was using a slightly lighter yarn than the pattern called for, I actually increased the stitch number. So I took the number of stitches that were required for the size I wanted to make, which was 112 stitches. And I figured that wouldn't be enough because I was using a lighter yarn. So I just had a look and I found the numbers in the pattern for a stitch count that was slightly larger. So I used 120 stitches and I used a 4.5 millimeter needle, and you can't see it because it's so dark. Here, let's zoom in. So this is that Traveler pattern. It's there, you can see, I think, oh, blue. Sections of stockinette stitch and then reverse stockinette stitch. A really long section of ribbing. This hat actually has 6 inches of ribbing, and that's because you double it up before you pop it on your head. So this is what the finished hat looks like. It is a fairly decent size hat. This is gonna fit my husband, I think. It's a bit big on me, but I like that it's doubled up. Oh man, it looks huge on my head. I like that there's so much ribbing that it's doubled up and will be very warm. So having finished 1 hat in a couple days, I decided to try knitting another hat. Now I, again, was searching the stash, and the yarn that I had lying around was a sport weight. This is some yarn left over from my Paul Klee sweater, which, oh man, I love that sweater. I'll pop a picture here. But because it's sport weight, it doesn't really fit in the fingering weight or the worsted weight categories. So I held it double and I used the worsted weight numbers. So this is my second Traveler hat, and I think it's easier to see here those sections of stockinette stitch and reverse stockinette stitch. This is a much thicker hat because I did hold 2 strands double, and so it's denser. And this one I think might be for me. This one I used the stitch numbers from my size. Oh, it turned out really nice. I do like how much ribbing there is because I find that, especially in the winter when it's really cold and if it's windy, I really like to have my ears covered and protected. So that is my Traveler hat collection. I do enjoy knitting along on these sort of knitting challenges that Andrea Mowry hosts, where you have to try and knit something in a weekend. It's fun to challenge yourself. I was knitting these at different things that I had attended, soccer games. There was a Ukrainian festival that I went to. My older daughter was dancing, so I was knitting on these while I was running around all weekend. And I have 2 hats to show for it. So whether these are for us or for the donation pile, it's really nice to have like a quick project where you get that sense of satisfaction when you've finished it, and also to use up some yarn in the stash, as I'm always trying to do. So this was a perfect use of both of these bits of yarn. I had like maybe a couple yards left over of each. And so that was perfect. I used up all the yarn. And those are all my finished objects right now. Now I say that those are all my finished objects. I have finished another object, but I can't share it with you right now. I was contacted a couple weeks ago and asked if I would like to knit a store sample for a shop that I enjoy. I think I reached out to them a couple months ago and just put my name forward as someone who could do some sample knitting for them. It's the Farmer's Daughter Fibers. They're a shop in Montana, and they reached out to me and asked if I'd like to knit a sample. So I said, sure. Turns out that this sample for their shop is a new pattern. So I was put in touch with the designer, and I received an early copy of the pattern to both knit for the shop so they could have a sample ready, and also to kind of go through the pattern and just see if there was anything that was amiss, any numbers that were off, or maybe any whatever typos, that kind of thing. So as a sample knitter, it was sort of like sample knitting and test knitting at the same time. I got to use a yarn that will be coming on the market very soon from the Farmer's Daughter Fiber, so that was pretty nice. And now I have a new pattern in my collection that I may be knitting for myself, possibly using some more stash. I will show you what it is later, but I just thought I'd let you know a little bit about sample and test knitting. Because I was knitting a sample for a shop, they sent me the yarn and I knit the sample, and I will send both the finished project and all the leftover yarn back to the shop as requested. But this was a great experience. The pattern was really well written. I just had a couple notes that were very minor. And then I knit up the project. It was a little bit challenging for me. It was something that I don't normally do, so that was fun. And the yarn and pattern came with very clear instructions that the shop have for knitting samples, so that made my process very easy because I knew exactly what was expected of me and what I had to do. So that's great. Now all I have to do is package it up and mail it back to the shop. Super easy. There will be a video in future, a very brief video, describing this process and the pattern itself. And it might be something that you would like to challenge yourself with too. Now, I have been working on a few things, and they all seem to be in the same color family, which is sort of interesting. In keeping with my desire to work through all of the patterns in this sock project by Summer Lee, I have picked up another pattern. This is from the stripe section. It's called the French Connection socks. And they are just some stripy socks. I'm using, this pale blue is Stroll, Knit Pick Stroll Tweed. And I think it's called, oh, I'm terrible with colors right now. Actually, is it here? Yes, I have it right here. The color is North Pole Heather. And then the contrast stripes was some Polka Dot Creek yarn that I had picked up. It's also a tweed base, and it's called Frost. And they're not a very high contrast stripe, but I think they're really pretty. So I finished the first pair, and the fun thing with this pattern has been working on jogless stripes. So this is the side with the color changes, and I think I'm doing pretty good for jogless stripes. I mean, not too shabby. So that's fun. And then I have about a half a sock, maybe a little more than a half a sock completed. So I will just keep puttering away on these. I thought I lost a needle, but I didn't. Yeah, they've been enjoyable. They're not super difficult. I would not say they're difficult. They're really good practice for doing jogless stripes. And they'll just be another delightful pair of socks off the needles by Summer Lee. I have to say, there's so many pairs of socks in that book that I want to knit. Not all of them. I mean, I think it would be, it's not fair to think that you're going to like every pattern in a book, because some things are more your taste and some things just aren't. But there's a good number of patterns from that book that I'm trying to work through, and I'm keeping them in a big basket so that when I've finished all of the ones that I want to knit, I will show you my big Summer Lee sock collection. The other thing I've been working on is a tank top, again, I've been trying to increase the number of hand knit summer items that I have in my wardrobe. So this is a pattern by Sari Nordlund. It's called the Roman Holiday Tank Top. And I've completed approximately this much. This is, it's mostly stockinette, but you can see on the sides there is a garter stitch section. So that's good. And it's knit bottom up, which I haven't done in a while. The yarn that I'm using is dyed by Crux Fibers. She's a beautiful lady with an amazing Instagram. You should follow her. She lives in the Yukon, I think. I want to say she lives in Whitehorse. Correct me if I'm wrong. And she has 2 little kids and a family. She's a busy lady. And her yarns and her shop are really, really lovely. She carries both spinning fibers, which I've seen Andrea Mowry using, and other yarns, sometimes a variety of yarns. This one is one of her summer yarns. Look at that beautiful shine. It is a silk and linen blend. I think it's 65% silk, 35% linen. Just lovely. And the drape on it is stunning. Like this isn't blocked. It just has this really nice floaty feel. So I think it's going to make a really lovely summer tank top in a very bright color that I think will be fun. So I'll let you know how that goes. That is the Roman Holiday Tank by Sari Nordlund. And the last thing that I picked up just the other day, I have not very much done on it, is some cross stitch. Now, you may remember I have been working on a series of cross stitch. You can see one just here. These cross stitch pictures are each a clue to solving a mystery. They're done by Diana Waters, and there are 5 kits for rooms. Each room has the answer to a question: who, what, where, when, or why. The first couple I have completed. This is the first one. That is Luna's living room. There's one slightly off camera. Oh, should we see if we can find it? There it is. There it is. Ooh, I can't move my finger. There. That is Davy's Den. And then this one is Gloria's greenhouse, and I've done only a very little bit of it. Cross stitch is a funny thing. When it's a work in progress, it's definitely like interesting to look at. But as you start to fill in the little pieces, you can start to see it come together. It's really satisfying in that way. The greenhouse is just another room in the house. And as I said, each room has its own question to solve. I'm fairly confident that the first one, it's got a clock in it. So I think that's the time. The second one, I suspect there's a missing candle holder. So I think that's the murder weapon. And this one, I have my thoughts, but I'll let you know as I finish more of this pattern. Again, I've only just started. The first room is done on a white background, and the second one is done on a deep forest green fabric. That one I found challenging to work, just because I'm 48, and so sometimes seeing the little holes was a little tricky. This light blue fabric is very lovely. It's easy to see, it's easy to work with. So this is the third room. I do have the portrait of the lady that goes with this room. So each room was designed by one of the roommates in this house. That's the story behind this murder mystery. And there's a little portrait for each one. You can see one here. That's the girl who designed this. This is Luna's living room. This is Luna. And then this one over here, that's Davy's den. And this is a little portrait of Davy. And then this is Gloria's greenhouse that I'm doing right now. And Gloria's portrait is in my cupboard right there waiting to be done. I do have this one and Gloria's portrait, which is very small. And then I think I'll be having to pick up the next kits. There is one more in the series for rooms that's available. I haven't seen the portrait, so I've been kind of waiting so I could pick them both up at the same time. And then after that, there will only be one more room, which I'm hoping will solve the mystery, but I'll let you know as I go. And I'll let you know if I'm right. I could be completely way off base. That has happened before. So those are all the things that I've been working on. A lot of little projects off my needles. The 2 pairs of socks were I had completed a lot of them when I spoke to you last. The hats were a nice little sort of diversion, a way to sort of play with yarn, I guess. Small projects are really good for that, for giving you the opportunity to sort of finish something quickly and play with some yarn, maybe that you don't usually use, and knit up something and get that sense of satisfaction of finishing something. So that's been really nice. I don't really have huge plans for my next knitting projects. I've just been slowly working through things as they come. I find in the spring and into the summer, my knitting plans dwindle. I still knit. I'm always knitting something, but my big plans for what I'm going to knit next sort of slow down, and I get a little less optimistic. Maybe that's not the right word. I get a little less like working ahead of myself, trying to figure out what the next pattern is going to be, and I just sort of work on whatever is in front of me. I am looking forward to that time when the fall sweaters start to come out. I do have some sweater patterns that I'd like to knit, but nothing's really screaming at me right now. So I'll just keep working on socks, a little cross stitch, and maybe some summer tank tops that will be finished that I can wear this summer. What have you been working on? Do you find that you craft different things in different seasons? There was a time when I found that different times of the year made me want to knit different things, like I would have a brioche time of the year, or color work, or cables. Or maybe it's crafts for you. Maybe in the summer you do a lot of sewing, in the winter you do more knitting. I'd love to hear what sorts of things you're getting up to right now in spring. I'm going to get going. I have a busy day ahead of me. My husband and I are heading off for a wedding this weekend. So I've got some things to do, and I'm sure you do too. I hope in the next couple of weeks you find time to do the things you like to do. I know I plan on knitting a lot. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.